mathematicians, welcome back. Before we start our lesson today, let's look at our little activating strategy to warm up our brains. I want you to look at the four pictures and decide which one doesn't belong. If you choose a picture, decide why. If you're like me, I chose this picture as the one that does not belong, the picture of the measuring tape. Even though all four of these are tools that I can use to measure, I noticed that the dropper, the graduated cylinder, and the measuring cup are all tools that I would use to measure volume. The measuring tape I would use to measure the length, maybe like the perimeter of an area, right? So that is why that one does not belong. Great job. All right, so for our lesson today, we're going to learn how we can read the scale on a measuring tool when finding the volume. Yesterday, we talked about different tools we use when we're measuring. We talked about how we can use measuring cups, measuring spoons, the little medicine droppers. So let's just kind of review with what we learned yesterday. We learned volume is the amount of space something takes up. And this can either be a solid, a liquid, or a gas. And if you remember, I said in third grade, we're going to just really focus on liquid volume, right? So that would be something like the milk or water or lemonade. To measure the volume of something accurately, you need to use standard units. Do you know the standard units used to measure volume? Can you remember yesterday which unit we said we're going to use? All right, you're right, liters, which remember L was the abbreviation, and we also mentioned milliliters. We learned that 1,000 milliliters equals a liter. So we would use milliliters more when we're measuring smaller amounts, but we're going to really focus on using liters. So to measure volume using liters and milliliters, we use a beaker with a measuring scale. So if you look here, and we've done some of these in the past, I can see that the scale 100, 200, 300 is going by 100ths, right? We're going to also practice looking at some graduated cylinders where the intervals might be a little bit different. So let's see how much liquid the cup holds using the measuring beaker. So let's do a few of these to practice. If I look here, I notice that the liquid is kind of curving. When we're looking at liquid in a measuring cup or a cylinder, we look at where it curves and we find that closest tick mark. So here I can see that there is 200 milliliters of water in the beaker. All right, so let's look and see what is the volume of liquid in each of the containers on the following slides. And we're going to do a few of these, and then we're going to look at some that have some different intervals. So let's see how much of the water is going to fill up the beaker. If I look here, it's dipping right at that 500 mark. So would you agree with me when I say that there are 500 milliliters of liquid that were in the bottle? Great job. All right, let's try the glass of water. Oh, now this time I notice it's not at a line, but I notice that the liquid is between the 100 and the 200 mark. What number is in the middle of 100 and 200? Okay, there's 150 milliliters of liquid in the glass. I know 150 is right in the middle. All right, let's try one more. All right, if I look here, I notice that how much of the yogurt is in the beaker. There's 100 milliliters. All right, so let's now look at some graduated cylinders. These are going to have some different intervals. Take a look at this first one here. All right, so if I look here, I notice that the intervals are now counting by 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. They're counting by tens. I also notice that there are tick marks in between. right? So I have to figure, okay, are they counting by ones? Let's see, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. It cannot be counting by ones because then this would have to be 25. All right, so now let's see if I try counting. Let me count by twos. 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. All right, so I noticed that the intervals in between the 20 and the 30 are counting by twos. If I look here, 22, 24, I notice it's between 24 and 26. What number is in the middle of 24 and 26? Our answer is 25 milliliters. Great job. All right, let's try another one. All right, first thing we're going to notice is we're going to look at the intervals. Now, they're not counting by hundreds. They're not counting by tens. They're counting by what? 5, 10, 15, 20. They're counting by fives, right? So I'm going to look here, and between 5 and 10, let's see, let me first just count by ones. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so they are counting by ones, and I notice that it's the tick mark right before the 10. Do you see where it's curving right there? So how many milliliters are in this beaker? You're right, our answer is 9 milliliters. Great job. All right, let's try one more. All right, what's the first thing we're going to do? We're going to look at the intervals. Okay, I noticed that this time they're back to counting by tens. All right, so I'm going to look here where my liquid is, and it's between 20 and 30. I see a lot more tick marks. If I look right here, there's a bigger tick mark than the smaller ones here, and it's right in the middle. I now can tell that this middle line is counting by fives, right? So if you look in between each one, those are all counting by five. So I could start down here and count 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So I know that there are 25 milliliters in this beaker. All right, the next part of this lesson, we're going to be looking at some real world problems.